is Sam. Uh, I think start with maybe an introduction to ClearTrip. We are an 8-year-old travel commerce business, which is, I think, considering all the hype and hoopla around retailing, we are probably the dinosaurs in the room. Um, we set up business about 2006, along with when travel was taking off with the LCCs. I think we've had a fairly interesting journey, evolving from a desktop product into trying to figure out how to get consumers to buy hotels online to now becoming a far more mobile-first business. Roughly, with close to about 50% of our searches today coming from smartphones and close to about 30% of our transactions. So I think this bit about how mobile is going to help consumers evolve our things is something very close to what we'd like to understand. I don't think any of us understand it yet, but I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion.
Hi, I'm Gaurav. Um, Spent my first 13, 14 years in conventional businesses. Worked for GE for a decade. Was the Asia Pacific director with Manpower for a couple of years after that. And then my wife and I set up Fashion and You and Deals and You. We exited that venture in 2012 and started investing in companies in the digital space. We have a small portfolio of about 6 companies today. I recently also took on an assignment with India Today Group. I run their television commerce and internet commerce, including Baggett Today, and some other new ventures that we're setting up under that banner.
Hi, yeah. I'm Prashant. I'm the co-founder of healthcart.com. We are 3.5-year-old now, based out here in Gurgaon. Basically a vertical retail play in the health and nutrition segment, and very recently launched HealthCart Plus, which is a mobile-based health engagement platform and a content-based kind of a business. Prior to HealthCart, spent a year in the startup space in healthcare technology, trying to create a SaaS platform for doctors. So that was my introduction to this space. And in the life before that, worked with McKinsey in San Francisco, doing largely healthcare related work. Also worked with Unilever I was associated with Lux. We were looking after innovation for Lux for Asia. That was the first role I did. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Yeshu Bansal and I head the customer experience team at Snap. Been working in the e-commerce domain for last 3 years and worked in other retail companies prior to that. I'm sure we've invested enough money in marketing that you guys all know what Snapdeal is doing. Right? We want to be the largest marketplace in India and possibly be able to sell everything that can be sold online. So that's what we are trying to do.
Hi everyone, my name is Sachin. I take care of marketing for Groupon across India and a couple of other emerging markets. I've been with the online space for more than a decade now. I started off with InfoEdge, perhaps India's biggest and most profitable internet company ever, and have been, through the various stages of evolution that the Indian internet space has seen, and I'm still enjoying it. I think it has a long way to go.
So thanks everyone for the introductions. Sam, I'd like to start with you maybe. So the topic is essentially how do you think customer experience management will change with technology? A lot of us over here would be ClearTrip users as well. Can you, from your experience, give us examples of some things in terms of how the customer experiences ClearTrip which you solved using technology? Something not just with the basic booking engine, but there's some other part of the whole journey which you then solved using technology.
Yeah, so it's been a journey that started quite a long year back, right? One of the first things that we said we should look at is we should look at data very, very closely, because it gives us a great insight into what consumers do, right? And one of the first things that came out very early, 2007, 2008, was the fact that roughly about 30% of our consumers typically used to drop off at the payment stage, right? It's still a problem for many of us, right? And we said that, hey, they could drop off for various reasons, so let's try and solve this using maybe not technology at that point, right? We said, let's call them, right? And say, I'll help you process the booking, right? that was the first step when we started looking at customer experience and how we can apply solutions that can help make this entire process better, right? I think it's evolved over the last couple of years. I think the first interesting thing that we tried doing a few years back when we started seeing mobile emerging, we realized that keying in 16-digit numbers, CVV, etc. is a pain, right? As in sticky fingers, fat fingers, and all of that. So we said, let's build a mobile-first storage platform for cards. We called it the Expressway, and this was, I think, it went live with our first HTML5 version, I think, about 3.5 years back. And we saw phenomenal adoption, right? We were seeing close to about 1,500, 2,000 consumers every day, and this was like 2011, storing their cards. Obviously, there were issues around, how secure is it, and we addressed all of those, right? And that gave us a huge impetus into two things, right? It told us the power, and it was very early days. At that time, we were getting about 4% of our searches on mobile. We were getting 1% of my transaction on mobile, right? And we said, hey, this is start of a very interesting journey, right? And I think if I just look at some of the other products that we built basis that and basis our experience with the first mobile first product that we built, again, I think we are big believers in data, right? And I'm sure anybody in the e-commerce space are, right? We noticed that about 14% of typically consumers who buy a flight or a hotel will amend, right? Amendment is per se an offline process, right? From a consumer point of view, the only way you could have done it is you have to pick up the phone and speak, and we don't think consumers want to speak anymore, right? There are various other ways they can reach out to companies, and speaking is really not in the top of the list. I, as a consumer, don't like to call anybody, right? So we said, let's solve those problems, right? So we built various algorithms, obviously huge amount of A/B testing at the back end, right? So I think the key learning in all of this is few things, right? One is, in the previous discussion, there was thing about who owns the consumer, right? Honestly, nobody owns the customer. The customer is the king, right? He's the center of our business. He owns us, right? Our job in business is to say, okay, what are the problems he's facing? Looking at all the data points and saying, how can I use technology to make it easier? Now, making it simple is easy to say. It's the toughest thing in the world to do, right? And it can only be accomplished if you are, as a business, open to failing and failing fast, right? Which I think that's, to my mind, the key learning. If I were to ask, anybody walking away from here, that should be the key learning, right? Try out things, fail fast, learn, and try out a million different things at the same time, right? And that's the only way to live on, right? I can reel out a list of other things, but I think conceptually that's basically the key to getting customer experience right. You'll never get it right 100%, right? There's no, I think it's better to be fast than to be perfect, right?
Right. So, Yeshu, the next question is to you. I think out of all the people here, you're the person with actually, whose designation says customer experience. At Snapdeal, how do you guys think about it? There is some perception about Flipkart, Amazon, and Snapdeal. So you guys are in some senses coming from behind on that one. But do you feel like, is there a framework that you have to map out the customer journey and then find ways where to tweak, etc.? How do you do it?
So probably continuing from what Alok said in the last discussion, right? So we also try to take feedback from the customer that all possible life cycles, right? So when the customer is there and trying to place an order, right? How's the experience on, say, finding the product on the site? How's the experience of, say, how much time do you take to probably search for a particular product? How much time would you probably need to take to place an order? Is it like a 3-step process? Is it a 5-step process? And then how's the experience once an order is placed? How are you able to track your order? How are you able to kind of, say, get more information, like probably try to prioritize your deliveries, right? So we kind of look at the entire order life cycle or the customer life cycle, and what are the possible touch points which the customer might have during the entire course of engagement, and how we can kind of continue to better them, obviously with the use of technology. And as Sam said, right, so we don't want our customers to be calling us, or there shouldn't be any need for them to probably even reach out to us, and how we can kind of predict those needs.
Can you give us an example? I think for the audience, the examples would be interesting. Is there something, for example, which either reduced the need for them to call you or just obviated the need in itself? So
So basically, one of the key drivers for calls for us is like, I want to know the status of my order, right? So I placed an order, you committed certain timelines. I know it may take time to be delivered, but I understand there are dependencies on the courier partners and all, right? But people who paid us money, right, they are anxious. I mean, they want to know where is their order, right? And how we are trying to kind of deflect some of those calls or provide more information, right? So uh, the statuses that we say probably gets from the couriers, right? So, okay, the shipment has say, traveled from Delhi, it's probably reaching to Agra, right? Then it is to Jabalpur and it eventually has to go to Bangalore. Can we show all those journeys, right, on the My Account section? Or probably how can we have that information on apps, right? Can we push out some notifications, right? Which is kind of helping them, which is probably lessening their anxiety, right? So, okay, you know, okay, my shipment is in transit, so it has crossed 3 stages, and probably you continue to give the expected date after each leg or after each improvement. Right?
Okay, Prashant, at HealthCart, you guys have both an app as well and an offline delivery aspect to the business as well. So, can you share over the last 2-3 years what has been that one big thing which changed fundamentally? Let's say you weren't using technology earlier, and then you used technology and kind of changed the situation.
So I think the beauty of the business is you have data about everything. So so technology is integral, and it's just it's not really a one big bang step that really changes things. It's a lot of incremental things that come one after the other. We figured that almost half the calls that we receive were for order tracking, say at HealthCart. So obviously we wanted to figure out how can we use technology to alleviate that rather than people having to try and call customer service agents again and again. And at what stages do they call? Some call right after placing the order. The first thing they want to know is what's happening. And we figured these were easy things to add. So first level of technology evolution was at what are the stages at which people get anxious, and we proactively communicate that. So SMS, email, just send out a message that this is what's happening right now, this is the expectation of the next step. Then came what next? How can we make it easier? Because the calls went down from 50% to say 30-35%, but still a fairly significant number of calls. People would still call, and again, for very basic things for which all the information was actually available and could have been exposed through technology. So we put it out there clearly on the website, order tracking. You put your order ID and you get to know exactly where it is, and all the good stuff that comes with it. Figured still quite a few, 25% calls are still coming for order tracking. Thought most of the people on the move with the phone, maybe let's provide them an SMS-based solution, so where they can just ask for the status of their order. That also helped, but then again, it all moves incrementally, one thing after the other. Even that was, they had to put status and order number. Then we thought that why ask them the order number? We know their phone number. If they're just sending us a message saying status from their phone number, they should get the order ID. So that's going live as we speak. So I think it's a regular innovation, a regular process. You keep figuring out what is the stage that makes people anxious, and then try and find out the most efficient way to really deal with it. And when you talk of the offline side of the business, or even the mobile application or information-based business, the processes are pretty much the same. You figure from data that, okay, there are certain kinds of questions that are coming again and again. A lot of that information can be coded, can be made available, accessible in a much more easy to access format, and then you figure what format works best, and then deploy it through technology, because that's the only way it will be scalable. So that's the philosophy we use, and I think what's worked on HealthCart, the same works on Plus, same works on our retail stores.
So before you go forward, let me just put in my 2 cents, because you've asked some fairly intelligent questions, right? First and foremost, technology is just know-how, right? Customer service or customer experience is a value that a company needs to live. Technology or know-how is just an enabler. We're using the word technology very freely, but in reality, most of what they're talking about is just adding communication points, right? It's not a question of some really sexy technology, right? It's basic sending emails. And what these guys are speaking about is pretty much exactly the same thing that I think everyone experiences, right? When I came to Baggett, right, like India Today Group, one of the first things I had to do was turn around the customer experience at Baggett, right? We used to generate almost 38% of our orders used to generate customer service queries, right? In 6 months, that is down to 9%, right? Most of it is around front-end empowerment, right? Empowering your call center agents, the first point of contact with the customer, right? Empowering them, measuring resolution time, right? And making sure there is adequate communication with the customer. We added 22 new points of communication and overhauled about 50 others, right? What that did was so both these things combined caused that crash, right? With good crash, I must add, right? But I think when you discuss this, right, and we talk of customer experience and technology, it makes sense to break it up into 3 parts. One is the pre-purchase process, and that's the really interesting space at this point in time. Right? The second is the purchase process itself, which starts from the time the guy is paid up in one form or the other till the point in time the product gets delivered. Right? That's what everyone is currently looking at, focusing on, and it's fairly simplistic if you ask me. People have been working on this for a long time. Right? That's the boring part of it. It's the easy to implement, low-hanging fruit. Right? And then there's the post-purchase process. Right? That's I see him nodding his head very vigorously on that one, because that's the big pain in India, right? And part of that includes, okay, so let's just break it up into those 3 first. The pre-purchase is where the real interesting opportunities in customer experience lie. Historically, we've always looked at buying behavior, right, and chosen that as a predictor of what he will do. That's like the silliest thing in the world. I'm sorry, I'm just saying that. That's the daftest thing in the world. If I've just bought a pair of shoes, I'm not going to buy a pair of shoes again. Stop showing me shoes, right? If I had to buy a shirt and I bought a shirt, I'm not going to buy another shirt. So, looking backwards and trying to navigate forwards is fairly daft. And with advances in some of the technological aspects, especially how browsers are behaving and the kind of information that you can capture today, there are predictive models that are happening, right? Which are based upon browsing behavior and interest rather than actual purchase process, right? And to me, that is where I think the next huge jump in customer experience is going to happen, right? I know Snapdeal's done some work on that, right?
So, just to interrupt over there, so I think one of the things which we didn't realize when we were creating this panel is everybody is from the online industry. And a lot of people in the audience are actually probably not. So I think to some degree, the way you broke it down actually is very useful and very helpful. But I think for a lot of people, the ways of getting data about the first aspect, which is what are they going to buy in the future, still is in the realm of very, very much offline data, either based on surveys or some other studies. So actually the way the topic was framed was actually more for the middle one and for the latter one. In the middle one, you're right. To some degree, some of the things are obvious. Some of the things, I'm sure, in the other organizations, people are trying to change. And in the latter one, again, we feel that there could be a lot more done. So, for example, one of the experiments that we were thinking of doing was, let's say you have something which will tell you when your car service is due next, or when your AC needs to be serviced, or, for example, you've been calling an air conditioning company for the service engineer to come to your house. Is there a way to kind of make that process a lot more easier? Usually you're in the office and stuff like that. So it's those latter 2 categories which we wanted to kind of focus on. I think Sachin is the only one who hasn't spoken. I think it'll be better, maybe we'll open it up for a discussion. But before that, I'd just like to add, Sachin, any thoughts on what?
Sure. So as you mentioned that, a lot of offline companies will probably have it very differently. What an organization needs to look at is the changing landscape of a particular market, especially if you're taking the developing economies. A lot is changing. A lot of variables are very rapidly changing. Disposable incomes are rising. Time is reducing. Number of gadgets each person has is increasing, but the time spent on each particular gadget is reducing. In all this changing environment, what is it that I need to do as a marketer or as an organization to manage the customer experience and evolve that experience? I need to first ensure that I have a consistent consumer experience. If I'm an online player, it means the consistent experience should be across web, mobile, tablets, etc. If it's an offline sort of a retailer, let's take a retailer as example, it has to be the same experience in Delhi, the same experience in Indore, the same experience in all the places that the retailer exists. So that is a prerequisite. If you can't create that standardization, then then there's no point. Then the consumer experience will be very, very bad. The second point is a lot more consumers are now traveling because roads are developed, air travels become cheaper, and so on and so forth. So what you need is what you would have perhaps thought a few years back. It might sound like an oxymoron, but you need personalized standardization, which means it's what something like companies like Groupon are doing, which means it makes you feel like a local no matter where you are. So if you're in Paris, you just fire up the Groupon app. You can actually feel like a local because you'll know all the best deals running around you. If you're in Delhi, you can do the same. And that's what companies like Groupon, Uber, Google are trying to do. They're trying to standardize an experience, at the same time personalize it based on where you are, what you do, what you've been doing in the past. So that, I think, is where technology will play a very, very vital role in sort of evolving the customer experience.
Sure, thanks Sachin. I think we'll open it up for questions because especially for people who are maybe not from the online industry, if they'd like to ask any questions of the panel.
So my question is, I see a lot of remarketing happening. Amazon and everybody around, they track my journey. But the remarketing is not getting closed looped. I am yet to see any company which is closed looping and giving me something extra. If I've just bought a cooker, it will just keep popping me the same thing again and again. Like you rightly said, I'm not going to be buying another shirt. How do we close loop that? How do we create a user journey which is pleasing to him and brings him back again?
It's not an easy task. So the way we're tackling it, and I'll say this from two different perspectives. I've spent 15 years of my life in offline businesses, and I've spent the last 5 years in the online space. But quite frankly, in the offline space, you're referring to the online space of an offline player. So it's that's extremely interesting. But let me put it like this: in the online space, it's fairly easier. You need to have your own levels of interest defined with your customer. So your customer has come and browsed some form of, whether it's a data plan, whether it's something else. He's browsed something with you at Airtel, right? And he may have some purchase history. Right, so if you can start storing, and this is basically you have to build proprietary technology around it, right? So you have to build proprietary technology that allows you to recognize, right, that this browser came, because 90% of these guys are not going to log in.
No, excuse me, I'm not talking about offline. I am talking about online. Online to online. It's a personal experience. We do a closed loop. In Airtel, we are trying to close loop the remarketing. I'm talking about big companies like Amazon or even Snapdeal.
So let's talk about Amazon
else.
Or let's talk about Flipkart or Snapdeal or us for that matter, right? What all of us are trying to do at this point in time, and fairly in the very, very early stages of development, right, is that we're trying to build algos that allow us to recognize cookies, right, and recognize individuals' browsing behaviors, right? If that cookie has repeatedly come over a period of time and browsed XYZ categories, right, we try and show him products from only those XYZ categories rather than random ads, right? Now, at times, it would mean that if you've browsed only shoes with us, you will see shoes, because there is no other information available, and you've popped up on some wonderful, this thing. But if you've browsed 4 categories, or we've got someone like Snapdeal or someone like us has 34 or 35, I know I have subcategory homepages at 34 or 35 of them, right? So out of those 34, 35 categories, you may only be interested in 2 or 3, right? And you may have come and browsed only those 2 or 3, right? Today my cookie actually enables me to know that and serve relatively relevant products to you, right? And that's the way we're trying to close loop. Unfortunately, 99% of browsers don't log in, right? So it's only at the time when they log in, and mostly it's at the time of purchase, that the loop truly gets closed and we know who it is.
Right? I think remarketing itself is something that's what, about 18 months, 24 months in the making, right? At this point of time, a lot of the online players are doing a huge amount of experimentation around cookie pool, cross-tabbing it with purchase behavior, cross-tabbing it with browsing behavior, etc. Right? I think it logically will evolve to a place where we'll be able to predict what you will buy based on various different cross-tabs, right? I think it's very early at this point of time to say people have cracked it yet, right? So I think you need to give it time. If you continue to see a lot of cookies on stuff that is already not relevant to you, then I think you should just, pardon all of us, because it's something that I think we'll crack it eventually, right? It's
In the meanwhile, clear your cache.
So anybody else, customer experience management and technology, anybody else has any questions?
Hi, I'm Sachin, and my question will probably throw some light on the kind of industry that I represent. One of the biggest challenges, as this gentleman rightly said, was that people exiting at the last moment of the transaction, which is the payment gateway.
Can you name which company you work for?
You'll be able to guess. Now, we too are facing a similar problem, but that's not at the payment gateway itself. And it's not that the transaction is not happening. The transaction is happening, the money is getting deducted out of the customer's account, but the product is not getting delivered to him. The customer is not getting a confirmation of the purchase successful, which is generating a lot of customer dissat. And that's probably very, very evident in the book my shows and the PVRs and the Inoxes of the world. So I represent PVR.
Okay. So is that, so the question is?
That a lot of customer complaints get generated because of the fact that something's going wrong in the payment gateway, which deducts the customer's money, but does not confirm the purchase of the movie tickets.
So you're essentially talking about the technical challenge regarding payment
Yeah,
gateways.
how do we really fix this?
So it's a fairly difficult problem to solve. Obviously, the larger e-commerce companies have built a lot of technology themselves. They've gone and spoken to banks. We used to get complaints like this till 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a lot of transaction failures, etc., or it getting stuck in the middle. Even now, it might happen on your mobile phone when the 3G or Edge network is not very great. But at least in my experience, it's more or less, the situation is a lot better across the board. But if
I think first thing you need to do is relook at your payment gateway provider, and probably if it's been a very long problem, you need to change your payment gateway provider. But I think it's something to do with my limited technical knowledge, something to do with your payment gateway and the technology at your site. It's nothing beyond that. It's not a very big problem to solve. It should not be.
Not be, but you should never expect 100% success rate, right? I think that's something that you have to understand, right? Even very evolved e-commerce businesses, if we drop off stuff, right? It happens because there are so many different moving parts between payment gateway, latency on networks, a million different things that are happening there, right? So as long as you can track this metric and do a very simple fishbone root cause analysis, saying what are the things that are involved, what can be where it's dropping off, and build in measuring mechanisms that can figure out where it's happening and address it. I think that's the way we approached most of the problems, right?
Out of the current payment gateways, which ones do you think are the better ones?
we can take that offline. You can ask each of them which is the best. There are people who are building their own payment gateways as well, so it's a conflict of interest as well. So there was a question behind you. We'll probably. Do you have a follow-up? Thanks. Can we have the question behind you, please?
So I'm from a non-internet company, a traditional brick and mortar insurance. So experience in insurance is a very, very different world. One wrong claim and entire years of experience management goes for a toss. I'm interested to know because we have this tussle with our technology team all the time that we want to introduce this so we can deliver this and hence the experience will improve. But where we always struggle is to show the benefit in real terms, in revenue terms, to both the CFO as well as the CEO, that this is what this will entail. So what I want to understand from the panel here, are there any examples of technology innovation where you have been able to very clearly articulate the benefits reaching to the company as well as the customer, and both wins?
So are you talking in terms of
some real innovations in technology, which was actually beneficial and could have been showcased so easily that the investments were released pretty much quickly rather than dwelling upon it for months?
I can take a shot at that. It's a different question, right? And I think a good FP&A guy is probably more valuable in this than anybody else, right? But I can give you a perspective. So let me tell you this. So for example, I used to run GE Transportation for West Asia, and one of the things we used to keep talking with our management, or with our customers for that matter, is that what features a customer will actually pay for, right? Or put in his value proposition when he's evaluating you versus another competitor, right? Which means real cash for the business, right? Which means that you could charge a premium, or you had to work at a discount, right? And when you're talking of $1 million product, right, these things make a huge difference. And you know, what we found was there are certain features that people value and will put a cash value to, right? Whether it was efficiency of the engines, whether it was service cycles, because that is genuine cash outflow for the customer, right? Those things he will definitely put a number to. And then there are feature sets which he will not put a number to. An air conditioner in a locomotive cab is something he doesn't give a damn about, right? It might be more comfortable, and you might say that, you know, it boosts productivity. He won't take your word for it. He won't price it in. On more on the internet side, you really need to be able to show how this can make your customer more sticky, right? And it depends. I mean, if it's something that makes your customer more sticky, put a number down. You know, you have to commit behind it, right? Saying that if I implement this, I will give you, let's say, a renewal rate which is 65% against the renewal rate of 40%, right? And I am putting that number into my targets. Give me these funds, right? At the end of the day, it has to be your commitment towards that technology delivering value as well. If you are iffy about what you are bringing to the table and asking for funding for that, there is no way somebody who is 2 levels removed from that will back it, unless it's in his larger scheme of things. Yeah. Does that fairly answer your question? My best effort.
Okay. Any more questions? Anybody else has a question?
So I just want to know, you all are running big companies, online companies, and personally, if I have to ask you, where is your mind share the most? Is it on the acquisition, or is it on a repeat purchase?
Okay, let me maybe start that, right? I think in our case, we are very clear which customer is important to us, right? And it comes from a few things, right? We are in a hyper-competitive environment where there's like millions of marketing dollars chasing new customers, right? And we realized a few years back that, hey, this is a very inefficient way of doing it, right? So we said very early days that we will focus on stickiness of customer, right? And hence, the most important thing to us is building products that essentially makes it seamless for the consumer to transact, right? I think if I were, 8 years later, if I sit back and say, was that the right decision? Absolutely, because it means that I spend half the marketing dollars that my competitors do. It makes me more efficient as a business. It ensures that I can engage with my customers more because I know him far better, right? Because typically about 2/3 of my customers are repeat, right? They've transacted with me in the last month, which in a travel category is not a easy thing, right? It's, typically average Indian flies about 1.9 trips a year, right? So just as a perspective. So I think for each business it works differently, right? You have to understand, if let's say I was a new person in the same field now, I will probably go on a new customer acquisition spree, right? So I think it's very different stages of the business, stage of the industry that will determine that question, right? But specifically from a ClearTrip point of view, it's the existing customers who transacted with us, which is far more critical than a new customer.
I'm sorry I'm hogging the voice share, right? But I just have to say one thing over here. There is no business, online, offline, or otherwise, that can focus on a single transaction customer and actually make money. Right? It's as simple as that. So if there is any business which says they're not focused on repeat or retaining their customers, that's a business about to, nosedive, change your job. Right? There is no business, no CEO, no chairman who will ever sign off, or CFO for that matter, who will sign off for a single transaction customer. There are no marketing dollars available for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Probably I didn't say the right way. What I wanted to understand was, of course, repeat business is the most critical one for everyone. What I wanted to understand was if you have, you have a VC funding, and tomorrow, if you have to divide the share, right? Say, out of 100%, how much goes to the acquisition and how much goes to the retain share. So that's what I probably meant.
So I think how much percentage can you kind of say allocate to? I don't think we ever have those discussions, right? So both the things are equally important. We want to reach out to every household in the country, right? So our acquisition cost, obviously, there's a lot of effort in acquiring new customers, probably all the marketing spends, or probably in all the buzz that we want to create around the brand, that will continue. If you talk about the numbers, so in Indian e-commerce, which is evolving for the last 6-7 years with Flipkart's starting up, it's still only scratching the surface, right? So e-commerce is not even a significant pie of the retail currently, right? So that journey is gonna continue in the acquisition, and all the marketing and PR around it will continue. But equally important, or in fact more important than that, is gonna be around how are we able to service our customers, right? So customer engaging with them and ensuring they are coming back to our site again and again. As Gaurav said, we can't have any customer just transacting with us once and then going off. That's not something which is sustainable, and that's not something which we want to do.
I think that's about it then. We'll wrap up. I think everybody's looking forward to the drinks and the dinner. Thanks everyone. I hope you had a good time, and we hope to make it an annual event. And please do share your feedback. Whatever things you thought we could improve or do differently, we'd love to hear from you. The whole Akosha team is all ears. Thanks a lot to all the panelists as well, and a big round of applause for them. Thanks a lot.